It's Thursday, May 15th. I'm Scott.
I'm Rim.
And this is Geeknights. Tonight, Geek Profiles number 1 with Fade. Let's do this. Okay, so we told you in weeks past that on Thursdays we were going to start to change it up. And this is the first Thursday where we're going to change it up.
Snap.
Oh, snaps. We have today a special guest on the Geeknights. Introduce yourself, special guest.
Good evening, everyone. It's Thade. Hopefully this isn't an entirely unfamiliar voice.
No, well, I don't know. People... Do you mind? Like, it seems like people are starting to call like Friday Night Party Line like Geek Nights Friday. Is that like upset you or what?
The last time that we did the show, though, it was just you guys that were from the forum. I mean, Friday Night Party Line originated before I even came to your forum and stuff. I don't mind what people think about it, but it's not that, and it's going in a different direction now anyway with the guests that we're adding.
Much like our Thursday show is going in a different direction right this minute. All right, so I think the general idea here is, at least my idea, is, you know, sometimes you get a guest on a show who's like, you know, some sort of famous person and you have to interview them, right? But, you know, I figure... You know, I guess there's some special things about you, and you're, I guess, semi-famous and talented in ways.
Wow, you're so generous, Scott.
I am.
So magnanimous.
I am so benevolent. Look upon. All right. That, you know, my idea is that we could do sort of like these, like geek profile kind of things, you know, where we could, like, ask the same questions or similar questions to, like, a bunch of different geeky people, and you can sort of look at all the different geeks around the world and how they're the same and how they're different. Because that's sort of, you know, the core philosophy of Geek Nights is that, look, all these people are geeky and geekiness is awesome and such. And also, I think we're going to start it off. I told you to get a news and the thing of the day.
Yes.
But I forgot that we sort of wanted to can the news on Thursday, which is fine because...
well, maybe not necessarily can it, but have bits other than, oh my God, we talk about the news.
Yeah. And I kind of want to make, you know, obviously when we ever have a guest on the show, it always takes forever. You know, it's going to be a long one. And I kind of want to be able to cook and eat dinner before a reasonable hour, even though I know that's not going to happen because I'm looking at the clock already and it's upsetting. But you had a very, very interesting news, and it gave us an idea for a possible Thursday bit. So tell us about your news, and then we will discuss it.
My news, Scott, is about trains in India. And the headline is, Mumbai trains kill 20,000 in 5 years.
Wait. That's like an insane number. Like,
yes. Well, you have to imagine what these trains are like. If they have doors at all, it's unusual. They have barred windows but no glass. And unlike in Japan, where everybody is really orderly in getting on the train, these trains are just a mob scene every day. People are hanging off the roof, they're hanging out of the windows, and they're jammed in way beyond any sort of capacity that the trains are designed for.
I mean, I've seen pictures of these on FARC. They're often an object of ridicule on FARC, but you know that everything is ridiculed on FARC. But you see these things, and if you just see this picture without context, you would look at it and think, wow, that's a joke. That is not an actual daily occurrence.
Yeah, it looks like one of those things where it's how many people can you cram in a phone booth, you know?
But here, 10 people a day are dying on these trains. So if you think you have a bad commute, or your train is messy, or you're sitting next to a smelly guy, imagine being crammed in beyond what humans should endure, and then risking your life every day.
I mean, in Japan, they pack them in pretty tight. They actually have guys who will push the people into the train, you know? But it's nowhere near this bad. Not even close.
Smell.
Yeah. So like, there's a lot of things I was thinking of that they could do to sort of fix this problem.
But that's it's very easy to say, oh, well, they could do this or they could do that, because if they had the resources to do something effective, it probably would have been done.
I know it's sort of one of those things where, yes, they're obviously not going to do this because of, realistic reasons like that, but it's fun to try to, think of solutions to something like this from, like, an engineering sort of nerdy standpoint. Like, I was thinking, well, why do they even have train cars? Why don't they just have, like, a big long platform, that just moves around the tracks like in a big circle really slowly, constantly, or something like that.
Like at the airport?
Yeah, sort of like at the airport. Or maybe like you just have one train, if you didn't have a big metal train car, if you just had, one engine and, like, say, just seats on boards, just something like that was much more open, and they would weigh a lot less, and thus one train engine could pull a lot more. You could be spread out a lot more. Maybe you could just, I don't know. It seems like that might actually be pretty cheap to do, if someone actually thought of it. I mean, there's safety concerns. If you fall off, you could get run over by the train, but it wouldn't be moving that fast.
Well, I think the more fundamental problem is that if you look at the sort of governmental and civil infrastructure of nations like India, there's very little civic planning in most cases, and a lot of corruption and such, to the point that even if there was a good idea, I mean, how could you possibly implement it? The trains are the way they are partly because no one has effectively tried to make a solution.
And the huge population. I mean, we're talking about a rail system that ferries 7 million commuters every day.
That's like more than all the people in New York City, right? How many people are in the city?
Well, the thing is, we have a very extensive transit infrastructure in New York, but the population of New York grew a lot more slowly than the population in India. There was a lot of time to adapt, and also we have superhighways and the car culture, and there's all these alternate ways of getting around.
I mean, there are cars in India, but you've seen that video. Good luck with that.
Plus, when you're making a couple dollars a day, you're not going to be able to buy a car.
I mean, a lot of Americans can't even afford to have cars, or they have cars, but really they'd be better off if somehow there were a way where they could just use some sort of public transit. I mean, the cost of ownership of a car in the U.S. is staggering. Our friend Conrad, really, he's desperate to find a way to just be able to get rid of his car and never own one again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like I take the train to work, but I still have to have the car. It's like, or else I'd be screwed. I wouldn't be able to get groceries at the grocery store. I wouldn't be able to go to my parents' house. It's really not fair.
Depends on where you live too. I mean,
yeah. If I lived in the city or in one of the boroughs, Bronx, Queens, Staten Island, Brooklyn, I wouldn't need a car. And it'd actually be difficult to have a car because I'd have to pay for somewhere to park it.
But remember, I grew up in the Midwest where there were barely even buses. I'd never seen a taxi in person until I got to New York. It's a totally different world. There's no trains.
Mm-hmm.
And you wouldn't take a bus in Detroit anyway.
I don't even take a bus in New York City, not because I'm like afraid of it or anything, but because I just don't trust it.
Well, no, I think it's more because we tend to restrict ourselves to Manhattan and occasionally the Bronx, where there's no reason to ever take a bus. The subways go everywhere except the Javits.
Or they go close enough for you to walk.
But if you're going to the airport or you're in any other borough, the buses are actually great.
Yeah, I guess if I was, if I had to go somewhere and the bus was like
if you're going anywhere in Brooklyn that isn't near a subway, just take the bus. Or if you live in Brooklyn.
Well, like my cousins live in Queens and they could go to the subway, take the E-train, but the express bus is closer to their house and is, faster, but it's a little bit more expensive. I think it's like $5.
Great. So obviously then the solution is we just need to build subways in India.
It's not a bad idea. I mean,
yes, it is. It's a terrible idea.
Well, you got to build enough of them.
It's not even subways aren't long distance or even medium distance transit. They can't go very far, at least by the way we design modern subways. And considering that the part of the problem in India is that they don't have the money to build a more robust infrastructure, they're not going to build a depressurized underground super train.
I guess they're not going to make a super train, but, I don't know. They could build sort of like an amusement park thing where there's just a constant, like this string of little two-seaters that they're constant. This two-seater, two-seater. I don't know.
You have population density like that, human life has less value. They don't care. They don't care if 20,000 people die. They're not going to change anything. They're pouring as much money as they can into it now, but it's not enough to keep up with the pace of population growth.
I mean, I think there's also the point of even if individual people care in the system itself, I mean, a bureaucracy gets to the point where it maintains itself, and the system takes a lot more work to make it care than any individual person working within it.
It's depressing. And I think the train, like on Thanksgiving, sometimes our train will be filled up to the point where, people are standing in the aisles, but that's not crowded at all compared to this action.
Of course, you look at a lot of people on that train, and to them, it's the end of the goddamn world.
Yeah, imagine. I should print out pictures of the India train and like tape them to the walls on the New York train.
I mean, actually, today my train was delayed by about 5 minutes because there was it was rain and all this stuff.
Well, they're doing something to one of the tracks up near Beacon. I was delayed also.
Yeah, but it was also because of the rain, which delayed the work, with blah 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 blah. But we were delayed like 5 minutes, and when the conductor announces like, "I apologize for the delay. We're going kind of slowly due to rain and construction. We'll be arriving about 5 minutes late," and this guy sitting a little ways down goes, "Oh, son of a god damn it. My tax dollars, Metro North, blah, 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 blah. This is bullshit. This is worse than Amtrak." And he's just going on and on and on to himself. And all I could think was, dude, not only is Metro North not paid for by your tax dollars and profitable.
Yeah. I mean, Amtrak you can complain about if you're, say, out in the middle of nowhere where it sucks. But
You mean out in the middle of nowhere where they shouldn't be using trains, where buses and hubs would be much more efficient?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, so things of the day. I'll admit this is quite a cop-out. This is one of those backup things of the day I kind of keep around for when I didn't see anything worthwhile on the internet that wasn't already on College Humor. I'm not going to tell you how I found this. I will not admit that I was just sitting around looking up pictures upon videos, upon movies, upon everything I could find of puppies and baby foxes. And then
that's your default. Find the cute animals, right?
Yes, but this one, Shiba Inu are incredible dogs. They're incredibly, amazingly intelligent. But as a result, they're really whiny and they're very talkative and they're very difficult for a lot of people to deal with because they're smart and they're obstinate. And well, this Shiba Inu has encountered an intruder in his space, and the way he reacts to it, and of course, more so than that, the nature of the intruder is kind of epic. I don't think I'll even let on to what the intruder is. I think you should watch the video to get the kind of...
I'm feeling like I might want to spoil your secret, because every time I try to, lead people into something and secret it up, you spoil it.
When was the last time I did that?
Yesterday.
See... I have words about the way you were trying to review that show. But
anyway.
We'll leave that for a Wednesday when I try to do a show on how to review a show.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's going to be a good show. All right, I'll do my thing of the day, and then you can go, Thade. All right, so my company, last year we did some softball, and it didn't go so well because you sort of like all the sort of company sports leagues in the city, they require you to have X players show up or else you lose, and they require you to have a mix of male and female players, and that's all well and good. Those are good rules that they have there. But my company had very, very few people total, so it was very difficult to get a whole softball team together, on this, the times and the schedules for the games. And a lot of the games would be far away from our office, like way uptown, and no one wanted to go, so it didn't last very long. But actually, we were looking around, because some of us in the office still kind of want to do some sort of office sport of some kind. And we found this really cool website, zogsports.com, zogsports.com. And check this out. This is way cool. They have basically, sports leagues for, amateur, non-professional teams. They let you play, either like ultra casual, or, kind of actually caring about winning and losing, playing. All the money that, you give to them to sort of join the leagues, right? They use that to, rent the fields and the equipment and all that stuff and pay the umpires or whatever sort of officials they need to referee the games. But the rest of the money all goes to charities and such. And when you win, right, if your team wins, the prize you get is a cash prize to the charity of your choice. So winning is sort of like you get to pick the charity. And the best part about this whole thing is that it's not just sort of your normal sports, even though it is.
Do they have volleyball in there?
Well, let me list some of the sports here. We got touch footballs, we got kickball, we got wiffle ball, and the rest are indoor soccer, outdoor soccer, volleyball, basketball, kickball. I said kickball. Oh, and dodgeball. That's right. Oh, and
Wait a minute. Dodgeball. There's a lot of ways to play dodgeball.
Coming soon, whitewater rafting, surfing and beach trip, and wine tasting. How about that? So yeah, it's good stuff.
Sounds like the Cleveland Sport and Social Club we had here a few years ago.
Yeah. I'm always wanting to do something like that, but it's not easy to get it together unless you live down there. Because I mean, if I stay after work for like a kickball game,
it's co-ed. You'd meet girls.
Yeah, maybe.
Girls.
Maybe. They said that like after games they pay for you to like go out and drink or whatever.
There you go. They could have some orange juice for you or something.
Yeah, I'm sure. All right, you have a thing of the day?
Yes, my thing of the day is Muto, a wall-painted animation by Blue. And this is a short film by this guy named Blue who did it in Buenos Aires. What he did, which must have taken, I can't even imagine how much paint and how much time this took, but he did an animation like you would on paper on a wall with graffiti. So he did this whole movie of this animation in this wall going inside, outside, down the street, into holes, all of these things. At times it gets to be 2 or 3 stories tall. The amount of labor that went into this is just, I mean, it must have taken months.
Are you sure it wasn't like digitally aided?
No. This is Buenos Aires. I mean, this is Latin America. This is old school. This is a camera and a guy with a lot of paint and a lot of time. But the style of animation. I mean, you've seen. I guess I'd describe it as the human form going through various mutations. People climbing out of their own skin and shapes for heads. And I mean, the animation, I think we've all seen it before, but just the fact that it's done as graffiti and it's animated, I mean, the effort is stunning.
I started to watch the video, but then I stopped and I haven't seen it, so I don't really know. But I mean, it is posted on the internet, so there's obviously some, don't think, oh, it's somewhere that's, I don't think about. They don't have any technology, because they do. All right. So basically what I'm going to go for here is I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions. You don't have to answer all of them if you don't want to, but I hope that this will take us somewhere interesting, and this is sort of the experiment for the future.
Yeah,
so,
everyone out there, for good or ill, this episode is mostly Scott, if you can't tell. I'm kind of just chilling back.
Yeah. So I want all listeners out there who are listening to this show to make comments on it. Because we're going to sort of try to continue this, maybe, or maybe not if you all hate it, but hopefully it'll be good.
As long as you keep the energy up.
Yeah, I'm trying to keep the energy up. All right, so the first question I'm going to ask you, right? So you're a Geeknights listener, yes, obviously.
Yes, I am.
How did you find Geeknights?
Oh, wow. I don't remember. It's been a while. I was looking for a good podcast to listen to, and I was just going through. I probably did some searches, some indexes on technology-related things. And I don't know. I think that I would listen to a couple of shows and just weed them out. And if the sound quality was bad, that just kills me immediately. So you guys have always had good sound.
Well, you never heard the special episodes.
The ones that you won't tell people about on the forums.
They're out there.
I mean, even the the early episodes that weren't special, if you listen to those, they're really terrible compared to like what we're doing right now.
I mean, I was listening to Adam Curry when I first started listening to podcasts.
I did too, and I don't anymore.
No, he's still doing it, but
I
Daily
didn't know
Source
that.
or whatever. It's not. But once you find shows that cater to your interests, then you gravitate toward those. And then I was interested enough to start doing podcasting. And I think it was about the same time that I started Friday Night Party Line is when I started listening to your show.
So why do you like our show?
Well, I think that it's, you guys obviously have a terrific sense of comic timing, and you work very well together. But for me, it's probably the fact that you don't hold back. You don't try to dumb it down. my whole life I have searched for people and for things that aren't dumbed down, because our society and our culture is geared toward the sixth grade reading level. And Rim is always, people are always busting his chops about being elitist, and my thought is, come on, step up. Jeez.
It works for Barack Obama. It'll work for me.
Yeah. I agree with you on so many things, Rim, except for Mr. Obama, but we don't.
We'll have to have a little post-show discussion. I'm curious.
I wanted to start a lot of discussions, but I don't know if I want to start that one.
Yeah, I hate talking about politics on the internet and on Twitter and all these people talking about their political views. And
I don't know. I think I'd like talking about politics with you on the show, especially because Scott will never, ever talk about politics and doesn't know anything and doesn't care. So,
well, I care a little. I just don't care that much, and it's mostly, over, for the earlier part of my life, I didn't know, right from left. And then once I knew, just discussing it was like, at one point it was interesting, but then lately it's just frustrating because everybody's crazy. And,
before we go on,
and everyone argues from emotion, and everyone argues irrationally.
Not everyone.
And most people, though, at least, especially on the internet. It's like, it's very difficult to actually get a real political discussion focusing on, because I always come at things I try to from like a political science standpoint. And most people sort of don't see that view. And it's very difficult. All right, anyway. So, you've heard, we've done like a bajillion Geeknights episodes, right? Do you have an idea for a Geeknights show topic that we haven't done that you would very much like?
Oh, Mondays and Thursdays are my favorite days. So if you just take the technology stuff that and then really don't hold back. If there's something that you're interested in professionally, where you, like in your coding, you were complaining the other day about not being able to parse something. If you could take something that you see in your day, or some philosophical aspect of computer programming, and then really go into it in detail, pretending like we're all at your level. And then that way, as listeners, we can work to understand what you're saying, as opposed to just saying, oh, I can't get my brain around that. Forget it. I'm not going to listen anymore. That's kind of what I appreciate. But that probably puts me in the minority of listeners.
Yeah. Well, you wouldn't believe the amount of feedback we got when we way back tried to do this whole how computers work thing. And we started, I think, with like flip-flops and like the basics of electronics. And
I'm going to have to redo those as video now, I think.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, the emails we got were basically, wow, I'm stupid and I want it from a first grade level.
Yeah, but we also got emails saying, wow, that was really great. And it's so half and half, we don't know which way to go. And with those shows, our goal is sort of to actually help people understand how computers work. So if they're not going to understand it, then it's sort of like we're not achieving our goal, But on the other hand, we sort of, if we're saying things that are so dumb that no one's learning anything new, then it's also sort of not achieving our goal.
Well, it's tricky with particularly what I do. I mean, I'm kind of apart from Scott and a lot of the other people we know technology-wise, in that everything I do is like enterprise level, like it's this totally different realm of computers and technology, and it's something that has zero application in 90% of technology professionals' lives and 99% of human beings' lives. Like, the topics are so esoteric and so specific and so just utterly, not necessarily difficult or beyond, but just not applicable in any way to people's lives.
And a big call for Emily to be in the show more. I think that if you can interject someone else who is dynamic and smart, and of course female, then people are going to like that, because most of your audience is male.
Yeah, we have a lot of other front row crew people, but they're not always nearby, or they're not always willing. On New Year's I tried to get one of our friends on the show because he's like an expert on many technological issues, even more so than we are. But he was like,
"Oh,
no.
You're talking about James?"
Yeah, but he didn't want to. He was like, "No, I don't want to." And I'm like, because I kind of wanted to hear what he had to say, because he knows a lot more than I do.
Not everybody is an attention whore like we are.
No, I guess not.
Yeah, we started young at that, though.
All right. So what other like podcasts or video internet shows do you listen to or watch frequently?
Oh, wow. I could give you a more complete list if I had my eye.
You don't have to be complete. Just, like.
Actually, it's probably better this way because instead of going through the list, it's kind of what was on your mind. I mean, there's shows I nominally listen to and I'm subscribed to, but I don't think about them on a daily basis because I don't like them that much, to be honest.
I've really tried to go out and look for some more recently. Since we worked with Dr. Kiki, I pretty much have followed everything that she's doing from This Week in Media to This Week in Science. There's all of the Leo Laporte podcasts are pretty good.
Yeah, I mostly only listen to Twit and the Floss Weekly. The Floss Weekly, that's the best one, I have to say.
Net at Night, I think it's called, with Amber MacArthur.
Yeah.
That's really Amber MacArthur is very pleasant to listen to.
Mm-hmm.
And the CNET podcast, Buzz Out Loud.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
That's very good. I mean, Molly Wood is one of those unique personalities, very fun to listen to. Of course, Extra Life Radio, Scott Johnson, who we may or may not have a connection with here in the short future.
Yeah, we got too many Scott Johnsons. We gotta find a way to separate them.
Yeah, our Scott Johnson's the one who actually knows about politics, and I actually get to talk to him.
Well, we don't know that the other Scott Johnson doesn't know about politics.
He's in our crew,
Yeah.
and he understands politics enough to where if you make a political science argument, he understands it and responds with an equally valid political science argument,
Yes.
as opposed to a but McCain.
But it will be expressed with not much eloquence.
Hey,
It's true. He knows it. He doesn't care. All right.
There's a couple others. Maximum PC, just because it's hard to find a really good hardware show. There's Maximum PC is good, and there's another one. I can't think of the name of it. It's Extreme Tech. That's it. Extreme Tech podcast. Both hardware related shows, and that's really, as far as computer knowledge goes, that's my strong point, as from a hobbyist perspective anyway. I'll
actually admit that I used to be that way, and then in recent years, like, I'm so divorced from the PC world that I wouldn't know what video card to buy. I have to look up to figure out what processor goes with what motherboard, or which one's fast, or what Northbridge is good anymore.
It took me a long time to build that computer, much longer than it would have in the past, that's for sure.
It all comes back to you, though.
It does, but it's sort of like you have to relearn like what acronyms match up with what others and all that business.
Someone in your forum suggested Geeks On. I went back and I listened to the Joss Whedon episode that they had. That was outstanding. But I started listening to their latest show, and they got a couple things wrong. And that just, it's almost like bad sound to me. If you don't know what you're talking about, then you shouldn't be talking about it. They were using the word Schadenfreude, and I may have even mispronounced it, but I know that it's German and not French. Thank you very much.
Wow. Okay.
Wow. Okay.
Okay.
Because I was going to say, like, we get things wrong. And
Often?
sometimes we even know we get them wrong, but we do a good job of, at least I think we do a good job of pretending we know what we're talking about, and it's convincing that we're not bullshitting.
That's a problem I have when I sell things to people or I do my IT stuff, and it's very easy to talk around anything I don't know and make it appear that I know a lot more than I may actually know.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I'm not being fair at all, but if you do get it wrong, everybody makes mistakes, then correct yourself. Don't try to hide it.
I mean, if people call me out and I'm wrong, I always say I'm wrong. But it's surprising how many episodes, like, especially when we used to sort of do like reading Wikipedia episodes.
Oh, in the early days?
No one would call us out on it.
Actually, I remember there was one where way back we were talking about programming, and for like 5 minutes straight, you were talking about like object-oriented and all these different kinds of programming, and you just said them all backwards, but no one noticed to this day, I don't think.
Oh, wow.
Because we noticed it after the fact. We're like, oh man, we totally screwed that up, but to this day, no one ever called us out on it. And a lot of people listen to that episode.
I think podcasting is going through kind of a phase change right now. People are trying to do innovative things. If you look at Leo Laporte, he's doing 25 hours of video now. He's trying to bring the world to Leo so he can stay in his area and then just not have to travel at all, and people have to travel to him. Justine from Pittsburgh and Alex Lindsay from This Week in Media were just out there. And it's kind of interesting to watch him sort of go into video, because the way he describes it, it doesn't seem to be like he has a real plan. And for me, I don't consume much video. I mean, very, very little, because there's no time. I'm too busy doing the things that I do in my life. Whereas with audio, I can listen to it in the car. I can listen to it, while I'm doing other things. So in terms of my own podcasting stuff, I'm going to continue to explore audio, but I'm only going to do video as sort of special things for work and maybe some computer stuff.
That's definitely the direction we're going in with the whole video thing.
Yeah. It definitely seems, though, like his video is pretty much just showing the people's faces while they're recording the otherwise audio show. To sort of just add the, you can see the person's face, element. And maybe also, if they're talking about a particular device or something, they can actually show it to you. But it seems like that's all he's really doing with the video. Is he doing more that I don't know about? Or...
Oh, and I mean, if he's looking to try to turn this into a company he can sell, like, CBS buying CNET for $1.75 billion or however much they bought it for today, I think that someone like Kevin Rose is going to have a much better chance with Revision 3 than he is with this. I just don't know how do you get advertisers for 1,000 people that have nothing better to do but watch you do a podcast?
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand where the model is. I don't know.
At least we've avoided that whole pitfall by just not trying to make money at all.
Well, we're not trying to make money with the Geeknights show.
Well, yeah.
But, I mean, we've already... I'm starting to find ways, because I always said the Geek Night show is sort of like, let's get out there, and then we can do other things, and then we'll have sort of like an installed audience for other things that may or may not make money, So it's sort of like, if I would have done a project before, like let's say I would have made something like a game, if I would have tried to sell that game, it'd be very difficult. But now it's sort of like I have this base, and it's like if I do anything else, this base, I can easily draw their attention to it and sort of get off with like a little head start at anything I do. So that's sort of what Geeknights is for. All right.
Yeah, for me, though, it's just to keep my audience. I'll go crazy if I don't have a lot of people listening to my voice every day.
Yeah, that too.
Attention whore, yes. I mean, I'm as guilty as you are. I love it as much as you do.
Because even we gotten some of the other front row crew people as they brush with Geeknights, they do stuff with us where there's crowds or there's fans or anything, and they always come back and they usually say something along the lines of, "Wow, it's kind of cool being on the other side of that velvet rope."
I knew you were gonna say a velvet rope.
Can I be behind that velvet rope again?
It'll be like, you can be behind as many velvet ropes as you want. All right. So you are quite a geeky person, obviously, if you're liking the Geeknights, right?
Yeah.
So what are your primary geekeries? Because we're sort of got our hands in all the geekeries.
Right. Oh, and you've opened my eyes to other things geek related. I was only kind of into anime, and I'm still nothing like you guys or some of the listeners.
We're not even that much into anime as we used to be.
Or what's her name? Tenchi.
Oh, in the forum.
Yeah.
It's her own show too. She's really, really into the animes. But no, computer hardware is my primary geek area. If I've shared with you some of the computer things that I've got going on here in my home office that we've nicknamed Mission Control. I have about 15 computers, an iMac, and is the only non-PC related. I have an Ubuntu box, and the rest of the stuff is Win2K, XP, and Vista. But I'm playing with computers all the time, whether it's swapping out hard drives out of laptops or building machines from scratch or for other people. It's something that relaxes me. I have a pretty stressful job, and that's it really.
Yeah. See, I was way into fiddling with the computers themselves for a long time, and then early on it was like a big learning thing. Like that's how I learned a lot of the stuff I know is just by putting computers together, installing operating systems.
I mean, you used to run Gentoo, and unlike me, you actually kept Portage up to date.
Yeah. And that helped me learn a lot. But then I sort of reached a point where I wasn't learning anymore, and it was just, You know, I wanted to use the computer to do things. I didn't want to, I found that I was spending all my time working for the computer and the computer wasn't working for me. So that's why now it's just like install Ubuntu or install whatever the default OS is, use the default settings and just get work done. So.
But you gotta tweak your kernel. Kernel's got to be tweaked.
No, it doesn't.
And that's more software than hardware. I just built a couple of FreeNAS servers, and that has been a lot of fun. FreeNAS is a lot of fun to play with, and one of them's a 4 terabyte server, and I did a video about that. And the funny thing, as far as video killing podcasting, I think I have over 2,000 views on that video, whereas the average number of listeners for, say, the Over 40 Gamer podcast that I was doing for a while, I was getting 70 or 80 a month on that solo show. So video is much more powerful. No, it isn't. And Friday Night Party Line's numbers are substantially higher.
I mean, I think that the issue is with video, like the main thing we want to do with video is it seems like a lot of people just don't understand podcasting. Even to this day, the vast majority of people I talk to have never heard of the word, have no idea what it is. And even if they own an iPod, they just like, oh, I don't know, is that some iTunes thing?
Yeah, there's like a podcasting button in iTunes, but they don't notice it somehow.
They don't even know it's there. Never even crossed their mind to click on it. So we want to make videos that kind of point out, hey, there's podcasts.
We should definitely do a how-to podcast video.
You all commute.
Kevin Rose did one 3 years ago. I mean, and that helped me get into this stuff. I mean, the folks over at Revision 3 have done a lot of the things that you're talking about, and they're making a go of it. But I have a feeling that their numbers on some of their shows are probably lower than Geeknights.
Well, some of some of the Revision 3 shows, I know who Revision 3 is just from listening, to Twit and formerly reading Dig and all that stuff. But, I only know about some of their biggest shows. I mean, they have a lot of shows on there, and most of them, I think most people just never heard of them.
Uh-huh. If you can't tie advertising to it, though, it's hard to sustain with the degree of quality that you'll need to compete with other things that are happening. There are so many people that do podcasting and maybe do 1 or 2 shows and then fade away. But the number of good, consistent podcasts, I think, is actually shrinking.
I would have to agree. I mean, I haven't added new podcasts to my repertoire in a long time, and I haven't. It's not like I've stopped looking.
Yeah, well, I mean, sort of what I've had. I sort of found enough podcasts to sort of fill my daily routine. So it's like, I added recently that John C. Dvorak's like Tech 5. It's very short, so I can just sort of listen to it in the morning really quickly. Like I'm driving to the train station, I can listen to the whole thing.
Well, that's what Grammar Girl does too. And Grammar Girl has that whole company of all, Legal Lad and Sales Guy and all of these 6-minute podcasts that have advertising in it, but give you a nugget of value in that 6 minutes.
Yeah, Onion Radio News, I think, was the first podcast to really master that format. Mm-hmm. All right, so you said your like primary geekery is like computer hardware, right? But you weren't like born with a CPU hanging out of your mouth or anything. So how did you like get into that?
Well, it just goes back to the beginning. I'm old. I'm 2 years old. And, so, I mean, I played with Trash 80s. I had a Timex Sinclair computer. I played with them since they became popular. I still have my original IBM XT.
XTs are good for typing.
When you just play with something as a hobby for more than 20 years, you just learn. Really, I mean, yeah, I'm a lawyer. I'm not a computer guy.
Yeah, I was just about to say, like, with such an interest in computers, you ended up though as a lawyer. Like, how did you?
Well, that's a fair question.
Would you rather be a computer guy?
Oh, I don't know. I think that I'd rather do what you would rather do and be sort of independently wealthy and then do whatever I like that day.
Well, you have enough money to feed both of us, so let's both quit and we'll get on that.
Well, there was that period about a year ago when I was thinking about just giving up on IT, going to law school.
Oh, that's true.
Going the opposite way.
The opposite direction.
Luckily, but I mean, that was all before. I guess I was so disillusioned with IT just because I had a pretty crappy job and I was making, mediocre money. And then suddenly now, stock market, gigantic, like I actually just got a $15,000 raise out of the blue last week. Like my boss said, "Hey, you want 15,000 more dollars?" And I was like, "Yeah, I think I'm going to stick around this place a while." So I think I've given up on my lawyer dreams.
Well, you're probably better off for it. Law is extremely competitive. I mean, my first 7 years of practice, I didn't enjoy it at all, and it was very, very difficult. And then through a series of circumstances and through some things that I was involved in, I ended up at my current place, and I like that a lot, and it's been very rewarding too.
So, do you have any hobbies that like aren't geeky, or I mean, do you just pretty much?
I mean, granted, we would argue that any hobby becomes geeky.
Exactly. Like if you told me that you liked, say snowboarding, I'd say, well, you're a snowboarding geek. But
well, maybe not. Maybe you don't. I mean, I've never seen a snowboarder actually snowboarding. So
that's But do you have any hobbies that aren't, popularly considered to be geek hobbies?
For a while, I was a serial hobbyist. I would go from one thing to the next. Took flying lessons. I took oil painting lessons, drawing. I still do a little pencil drawing. I did collecting various things from stamps to coins to, I don't even remember all the things now. From Lego to robot building to, I'm just sort of looking around now for the remnants, the vestiges of these hobbies. And eventually, my work got so time consuming that I really only had time for one or two. So I still have the sports car and I still have all my computers. But podcasting is probably, if you can call that a hobby, the only other thing that I do, but that's geeky.
Yeah, I guess. My friend's dad is a lot like that. Like he would go and buy a bowling ball and then he would stop bowling. He would bowl a whole bunch and then he would stop. And then he would go and buy something else and do that. Like he bought a camera and he would be taking pictures like crazy and then he would stop. And
I don't know. It's all part of discovering what you like to do. I mean, when on Friday Night Party Line, we make fun of the idea of what is it that's really fun. If you're a happy person, like, Rim is a happy person. You can't make the guy unhappy, really, from what we see, at least as in the audience. I don't know. Maybe he cries himself to sleep every night, but I doubt.
On the inside, maybe.
Yeah, as people who are in the crew can say, it's actually scarier in real life than on the show. I'm much less cynical in the real world.
So, but there are other people, Scott and me, who are not like that. And so you spend your life searching for something that is enjoyable, that you can put time in and get something that's back that's rewarding.
I don't need to search. I just can't get.
Well, but it becomes a search after a while. I mean, you remind me of myself from, when I was younger.
Mm.
Except I had a girlfriend. I'm sorry.
What do you want from me?
No, it's your rigid thinking, Scott. You have so much rigidity in your mind, and it stops you from doing things like dating. That's all.
Well, I don't think rigidity in my mind has stopped me from dating so much as lack of free time.
Lack of rigidity in other places?
No, but I have plenty of rigidity in many places. But I do recognize that there are a lot of things where, like, I come up with like an obvious answer to my problem, and then I sort of refuse to execute on that because I feel like it's cheating or I feel like it's sort of wrong.
You know what you're like? You're like me when I was a kid and I'd play video games and I'd run into a boss and it'd be super hard and I couldn't beat him. Like it'd be really difficult. But then there'd always be like I'd see the really cheap way to beat the boss. Like, oh, if I just go around the back and grenade him, then he'll die. And I remember never wanting to do that. And as a result, I never beat video games. And then I found out later that all these games kind of expected you to do that. And that was, in fact, the only way to beat those bosses.
Yeah.
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 All right, so you're a fancy lawyer. I don't even know what kind. Actually, there's a lot of lawyers who listen and talk in the forums and are on Friday Night Party Line.
Did you forget which one's which?
No. It's like I know what kind of lawyer all the other lawyers are, but I don't know what kind of lawyer you are.
See, I can't really go into that because I do want to keep this internet schizophrenia going.
That's fine.
And the type of law that I do is highly specialized. So if I go into it at all, I'd be easily spotted.
That's fine. Not really. Is it an exciting area of law, like intellectual property, or is it lame to normal people?
I'm not a litigator. I started out doing commercial litigation. I can talk about that. I hated it because basically it's combative all the time. 4:30 on a Friday afternoon, motions are coming in over the fax machine designed to ruin your weekend.
Are you at least sending out to ruin other people's weekends at the same time?
Oh yeah, sure. And doing all kinds of things, and it's give and take. But I don't want that. I'm not. I'm not the kind of lawyer that wants to fight. So I'd rather have everybody agree. And so litigation is not for me.
All right. Well, I mean, there's sort of like this, I don't know, sort of cliche, like, oh, lawyers, they're like the bane of existence. They make the world miserable. So being a lawyer, I guess, is it, do you sort of feel that like, I'm you're evil or what?
Well, it's am I evil?
Yeah.
Okay, Scott.
What?
So, are you evil?
Well, I mean, it's sort of like it's like my uncle's a dentist, so it's sort of like people dread, the dentist. So it's sort of, but he doesn't care. But other, there is a high rate of like suicide among dentists, and that has something to do with it. So I was wondering if lawyer, what kind of feelings you had being in a member of a somewhat despised profession.
Yeah. I mean, you get that a lot, and you just have to go with it. I mean, the idea, the joke about the post office coming out with a commemorative stamp for lawyers, but they had to discontinue it because people couldn't figure out which side of the stamp to spit on.
I never heard that one.
You get that, but what I do is helping people. It's not combative, so I don't internalize that, and I can always blame the plaintiff's lawyers for being the real cause of the problem. But you know what? It's like an onion. If you peel that back, it's not really the plaintiff's lawyers. They're the guns. And it's the people that are unhappy, that are willing to sue and go through the incredible inconvenience and hassle that a lawsuit is just to have vengeance or make money or what have you.
Right. So, I'm sort of speaking for myself here, but it really feels like lately, especially with all the the ways law and technology have been interacting, that law has become more important for a lot of people in their everyday lives, but it's also incredibly complicated. You have to go to school for years and years to even understand it, and they're sort of in a situation where everyday people have like lots of questions they want to ask lawyers, but in order to get an answer, you have to pay someone. Like it's not free.
Right.
So it seems like people, they want to follow the law or know it, but it's not something they can understand. And it's like, it really feels like you have to, if you don't have a lot of money, you can't even know what the law is to follow it. Do you get what I'm saying?
I guess, but most people have a working knowledge of the daily laws that they have to not violate to stay out of jail.
Yeah, but I'm talking about
Actually, no, I would argue that maybe it's just geeks and technology people, but a lot of the things that I do on a daily basis get very close to gray areas of the law where I'm not sure anymore, because a lot of the laws that relate to these areas just aren't clear. And even our company lawyers are like, I don't know. I just don't know. And there's not enough body of case law to kind of have a precedent or anything. And the judges don't understand. And there's no way in hell a jury's going to understand. And I mean, I guess I should be the one who's out there as the expert witness, but then all I'm doing is explaining the technology. And then the lawyer still has to tell me how to translate what I just said into what the law says.
If you haven't guessed, I'm pretty much taking advantage of the fact that you're a lawyer and you're on the show to save myself some monies.
So you're planning to possibly break some laws, apparently.
Well, I don't know. Is it against the law for me to if you just answer law questions for me?
Well, I'm not licensed in New York State, so I can't give you legal advice on New York law, but we can talk about hypothetically and generally speaking.
All right, that's good enough.
All right, so how do you feel about, I don't want to derail, we won't go on too long about this, but there's a story recently about a guy who was taking photographs, and he wasn't violating any laws, and he was taking them in a public place. But the police harassed him. I think they eventually arrested him and all this business. And in the end, it was determined that, yeah, he was not violating a single law. And yet, because the police, neither the police nor him nor anyone involved until it got to court even knew the law or knew that whether or not there was even a law that covered the situation, that this person could be arrested for committing absolutely no crime, and there was no even evidence that he'd committed a crime. And
that's not surprising to me at all.
Yeah, and I don't know. I don't really have a question. What do we do about that? Because technology is making it more easy to run into these situations, like with photography. How many pictures are taken in public constantly? And it seems like no police officer in this country understands that it's legal to take a picture from a public place, as far as I'm aware, and I'm not a lawyer.
You guys talked about this, right? The whole you mentioned the standard of reasonable expectation of privacy. Someone said that.
Yep, that's one of my hot buttons. So it's one thing I actually did as much research as a non-lawyer can do.
You know, Ray from Friday Night Party Line is an expert on this area of law. He is nationally known on this point. But basically, it is that reasonable expectation of privacy. But at the same time, the police have immense power, and they can always arrest you. Just because you haven't actually broken the law, that'll get figured out later, maybe. And if you have perfect faith in the system and then you don't use a lawyer to defend yourself, you're probably going to get convicted. It's really a power system, not so much a system of justice. So, you know, some of the stories you've told, Rim, about how you've pushed the envelope with police officers, I would cringe when I heard it, because you were counting on your rights to be upheld, and they're really not. It's almost happenstance if that's actually how it's going to work out.
Yeah, sadly, I've gotten to the point now where I'm of the mind that I should carry surveillance on me at all times, so that if I have an interaction, let's say, with the police, there's some sort of external record of it to vindicate me in the future.
Well, often they are recorded themselves, and the fastest way to get arrested is to start videotaping a police officer. And in fact, it might be a good way to get tased too.
Yeah. Even though it's perfectly okay. I mean, where would Rodney King be if we weren't allowed to videotape police officers?
But yeah, we're supposed to have this the First Amendment and everything else. So theoretically, you should be able to. But in some states, it's not legal to do that. Yeah.
Are there any like particular like things in law that are like really like they really bother you a lot?
I mean, you can avoid talking about things that might reveal your secret identity, of course.
And I wish I didn't have to do this secret identity thing, but you know, if you work for a place that might care, and I go out of my way to try to do what you do, Scott, and not do something that would embarrass me, but I'm a human being and I might make a mistake. So I have the pseudonym as sort of an extra layer of protection. That way I can have fun, you know, this being one of the few things that I consider fun in life. So, but yeah, no, the things that bug me, I mean, the whole copyright thing is really hard to understand. This Mux tape thing that's out now, where you can upload your songs, create a mix, and have other people listen to them, I'm waiting for that to just blow up. Because basically you could buy a new CD, put it up track by track, and then anybody in the world could listen to that CD. Why would they buy it? You're just using the internet as a giant hard drive for everybody to listen to. They don't have to download it. They can listen to it when they want to. So that's going to go down. They're going to attack that. The RIAA is, you know, some of the things they want to put in place in terms of federal laws. They want to have a copyright czar who's on par with the war on drugs czar. I mean, that's crazy. They want to break down people's houses and see if you happen to copy an old videotape from 10 years ago.
This is why I've actually been very interested in, and I've asked a lot of people about how to do this before, because I really want to be one of those expert witnesses for all these cases, because I think I would enjoy it, because I like to expound upon things that might make other people angry.
Unless you like being sodomized by lawyers, because that's what they do to expert witnesses. You have to be, I mean, the expert witnesses you see on TV, well, if it's a big enough case, they'll hire private investigators to follow you around to try to dig up details in your personal life. They'll look at everything you've ever said in public or in private masturbation episode of Geeknights, Exhibit A in your testimony after you're done.
But how is that relevant to my computer knowledge?
Well, what if it's a case about pedophiles or something?
Well, I'm not going to testify in a pedophile case.
But that's the most common case on the internet. It's either that or it's copyright.
I guess. I don't know.
So they would have a field day with you.
That's the kind of thing that bothers me. Is sort of like this. Why are they attacking my character when I'm just there to tell them how computers work? It's like, if I know computers work, what does it matter if I'm, what else is true about me?
Well, my real interest is that, you brought up the RIAA and copyright, but as a technology professional and ignoring the legal aspect of it, from everything I've read about these cases, they've never presented technological evidence that was even close to being useful ever in any of these RIAA cases.
Knows what they're talking about, so they can fudge it. If you can get in a courtroom, and most of these are small state courtrooms, and state court, you don't want to be there if you don't have to. And you're not going to have the high level of expertise that you will in federal court.
And I feel like this is a big problem. I feel like in addition to having a jury of your peers, you should have the right to at least have an expert witness who understands the issue at hand or in any court case.
Yeah, I mean, you have a jury, but if the case is about computers, and no one on the jury has ever used a computer, how are they my peers? They're not.
It's just that's just jargon. There's no such thing as peers. What they're gonna, Rims on trial, they're gonna go out and find people, 12 people with IQs of 140 plus who have technology backgrounds. Wrong. They're gonna find people who can't figure out how to get out of jury duty.
The sad thing is, I wanted to serve on jury. Every time I'm called, I really want to serve on the jury, and I do everything right, and I'm there, and I'm always immediately dismissed. As soon as they look at me, they kick me out, and I'm done.
It's just no good.
And in fact, when I worked at the hospital, I was told, basically, I said, yeah, I'm a technology professional for a hospital. And they said, oh, well, you don't have to serve on a jury. And they let me go.
Oh, well. Yeah. Let's see. Do I have any other lawyery questions? Well, it is, it's like there's a whole... It's like I kind of...
So what's the legal distinction between flotsam and jetsam if we're in international waters?
I'm not a maritime lawyer.
Okay.
You should have Killarney on, though, because his perspective as a prosecutor is different than mine.
Maybe we will. It could be pretty cool. But yeah, it's like lately I've actually run into a few sort of situations where it's kind of like I need a lawyer. Like we sort of want to officially make a business like Front Row Crew Studios or something. And we also kind of want to buy a house. But since there's a whole bunch of us, we might need a real estate lawyer. And, it's like, how do I find a lawyer? How do I know I'm not getting ripped off? How do I don't know how to do any of those things.
The Bar Association will probably have a referral service. At the very least, you can try that. Talking to lawyers who know other lawyers is a very good way to find people. You guys like to do a lot of stuff yourself, and certainly with setting up an LLC, you can probably do that yourself. You can learn a lot just by going to the website for the Secretary of State, and it's not hard and it's not expensive. I just set up an LLC that's going to own Friday Night Party Line and anything else that I do online now.
Because actually, the worst thing is that's what I was thinking. All right, LLC, whatever. And then we got advice from people who kept saying, no, you got to make a Delaware whatever thing, and you got to do this and that, and issue stock, and blah, blah, blah. But then we run into the fact that with my job, I'm legally barred from having control over investments or owning stock or anything like that, and there's all this trouble.
Business entities are very flexible. If it turned out that you do your LLC just to get for tax purposes, and then later if someone wants to buy it and they want to invest in it and they're out of state and there's SEC issues, you can convert it into another entity. There are many things you can do, and they're all very flexible. So start out with what you can do now. Set up an LLC. Get a tax ID number, get a business account, get a PayPal business account, and then you're good to go for pretty much anything for the next few years, unless somebody's going to pay you $1.75 billion like CBS did for CNET.
I mean, if I had $1.75 billion, I would probably buy like a sports team, right? Why would you buy CNET? I don't get it.
Depends on the sports team.
It does.
Yes, bought CNET because they're afraid. All of the newspapers in the world are declining. Nobody watches TV, and then when they do watch TV, they time shift it, or they don't watch it at all anymore. When you can watch anything you want at any time, you don't watch anything.
Well, I just feel like this is a topic for a whole separate discussion, but I feel like in the next, I want to live a time frame. I'd say within the next decade, definitely, there's going to be a rapid, fundamental shift in the way media is presented and consumed. And I think the ramifications are going to be far-reaching and long-term and frightening to a lot of people.
Yeah, I think we're definitely, we're sort of climbing the roller coaster now, and in a few years we're going to be going over the top, and then it's downhill.
But CNET, CBS looks at CNET and they say, okay, they're doing internet TV. They're doing IPTV. We'll buy them and then we'll have IPTV too. But, are they doing it very well? Do they really have that strong of a presence? What kind of credibility do they have? I don't know.
Well, they've got a name. CNET's a somewhat well-known name, I guess.
They're well known. And if you pump a lot of money into it, they do things on a shoestring. If you start pumping money into them, maybe that it'll do for CBS what CBS wants. And I think that ultimately when people can watch videos and TV shows literally anytime they want to, when they're on a bus, when they're, and there's no iPod necessary, there's no storage media. Anything you could ever want is immediately delivered instantaneously. Then, that's probably what you're talking about, Scott.
Yeah.
Well, it gets really tricky then, because I'm debating if I want to write an article or something about it. But it's not just that you have to compete with the other media out there, and not even talk about monetization.
Oh yeah, this is a great idea you had. I love this.
You can't. We also now every piece of media we make has to compete with every piece of media that ever came out. And I'm thinking of titling this little short book like "You Can't Compete with the Past." I mean, there are more movies that have been made in the history of movie making that are probably worth me watching, to where if movies were not made for the rest of my life, I don't think I would run out of movies to watch.
Yeah, it's because back in when I was a kid, right? It pretty much it cost something. It was difficult to get anything, especially if it was old. I mean, if something was old, it was incredibly difficult to get. The only real stuff you can get was new stuff. So it's pretty much if new stuff didn't come out, you really couldn't see anything because it would just be sort of quiet. But now, with you, not only do I have access to everything that's new, but I have access to pretty much everything that has ever existed. I mean, there's old TV shows, old comic books, old radio shows, old movies, old music, old everything. For as long as humans have had recording technology, photographs, everything. So there's so much that already exists. And there is so much being created at any one time that the value of something new is significantly decreased because the supply of things in total is just so large that it's like I don't need new things. I can live on the old or the current.
I mean, I haven't even finished reading Herodotus or Xenophon, let alone the book.
You need an Amazon Kindle that lets you buy anything you ever wanted right now, anywhere you are, because it has the free wireless.
Actually, I'm at this training for this gigantic enterprise thing I bought for work, and for all week, and down on Wall Street actually. And 3 of the guys, they all have Kindles, and I got to play with it for a while. They lend me to, hey, check this out, it's cool. And I'm probably going to buy one as soon as the next revision comes out, like revision 2.
Yeah, I definitely. Yeah, if there's a revision 2 of the Kindle, I might go for it. But
yes, because how many times have you wanted a book and not been able to get your hands on one? Here, when you guys are talking about The Prince of Nothing, okay, touch 3 buttons and I have the copy.
I think it's relevant to bring up. Remember in the Prince of Nothing episode, I talked about, I was thinking of setting up an Amazon Associates thing, right?
Yep.
Well, I did, and all the links to the 3 Prince of Nothing books were Associates links. And I'm not, I don't want to I'm fully disclosing here. We made a lot of money from that. A lot, it paid the Libsyn bill and then more so. And if we sell one Kindle through Associates, we get $40 per Kindle. It's ludicrous. And I sort of don't feel bad doing that because it's you people who click on those links and buy products are not paying any more. It's just we're basically taking money Amazon would have had in Amazon's
I think
pocket.
the only reason it would become bad would be if we started purposefully talking about things we wouldn't otherwise talk about and hyping them up just to get the link.
Yeah, I'm not gonna hype up Kindles just because I'll make $40 off of them. Even though it is somewhat enticing, but there's no way that's gonna happen. But yeah,
I reviewed HGTV on my blog, and I got mad hits on it. If I would have done that, I would probably have made thousands of dollars.
Yeah, and I started looking around, and there's actually a lot of websites have like these associates programs. Like Newegg has one, Right Stuff has one, Fun Again, which sells board games, has one. So
I don't think I'd go with Right Stuff because.
Well, no, we can go to Amazon.
But I'm saying even with Amazon, when DVDs, I feel like Netflix is killing the anime DVD
Maybe
market.
Netflix has a thingy. Who knows?
Everyone already has Netflix.
I know. But
if you produce content, you should make money on it.
Yeah, but it's tricky because like the anime industry is a good example of this, where you can't compete with the past, and so much anime is being released in the U.S. and as someone aptly put it, they try to make all their money selling DVDs, but that's like the Wheel of Fortune trying to make money off of selling DVDs. Like it's this disposable medium. These are shows that air once a week, and like everyone watches them, and then they forget about them, and no one watches them again. They're like these serial million-episode monstrosities, and they make a ton of money in Japan with TV advertising.
Well, some of them do,
and merchandising and all that stuff. But in the U.S., they've got this market of they try to sell these DVDs, and no one buys them. And as huge anime fan as I am, I really never buy anime DVDs, and there's no reason to because I can rent them perfectly legally. I don't even need to steal them.
Mm-hmm.
But as a result, the anime industry is collapsing.
Yeah. It's kind of sad. All right, it's getting a little. Do you want to end it here? You got anything else over
I guess
there?
we could wrap it up. We've gone on a good hour.
No, that's good. I can go eat dinner. So Thade, is there anything like you particularly want to promote? Anything you want to tell people?
Oh, just Friday Night Party Line, because you guys have been a part of it, and I hope that you'll continue to be a part of it as we really ramp things up in the next few months. I don't want to go through the list of people that we've asked to be guests, but some of them have been on Oprah.
Ooh.
So
it's not Tom Cruise, is it?
No. That would be interesting. But I mean, the plan for Friday Night Party Line is to monetize it to an extent only really to satisfy my own hobbyist interests of being able to afford to get high-end guests.
Yeah. I mean, I have the opposite take of I haven't been on it nearly as often as Scott, but I always want to because I don't making money or whatever. It's just really fun to be on that show. It's really it's a lot more enjoyable than doing Geek Nights.
That's the reason I do it. I look at that topic list and I'm like, oh man, I got something to say about that. Everyone's gonna hear it.
Yeah, it was great. We'd love to have you on more often. I want to set up some interesting topical roundtable. I don't want to step on Friday Night Party Line's toes. Definitely want to go with a different kind of format.
Yeah, these podcasts are so personal that even if you had the exact same setup, it wouldn't be the same show because of your personalities.
And again, that it's very hard to get a word in edgewise.
Yeah.
Right.
This has been Geek Nights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music.
Be sure to visit our website at www.frontrowcrew.com, where you'll find show notes, links, our awesome forum, a link to our Frapper map, and links to all the RSS feeds.
We say feeds plural because Geek Nights airs 4 nights a week, covering 4 different brands of geekery. Mondays are science and technology. Tuesdays, we have video games, board games, and RPGs. Wednesdays are anime, manga, comic nights. And Thursdays are the catch-alls for various rants and tomfoolery.
You can send us feedback by email to geeknights@frontrowcrew.com, or you can send audio feedback via Odeo. Just click the link that says Send Me an Odeo on the right side of our website.
If you like what you hear, you can catch the last 100 episodes in iTunes or in your favorite podcatcher. For the complete archives, visit the website, which has everything.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike 2.5 license. This means you can do whatever you want with it as long as you give us credit, don't make money, and share it in kind. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.